So we have a little bit of time to dive into the deep end before we have to wrap things up. I know something that we talked about a little bit was about mental health in general, and you talked a little bit to me before we started about your husband and his diagnoses. Is there anything you wanted to talk about, share about that?
Yeah, he deals with OCD and generalized anxiety disorder. And it's
GAD.
Yeah. It's really hard for him to deal with those things. It's hard to watch him have to deal with those things, and you try to comfort as much as you can and be there for him and be there through whatever he's going through, because it's pretty tough sometimes.
An important thing to remember through that too is you're still a person and you still need support too. So yeah. I know how it can sometimes be frustrating because you have to put someone above, like someone's needs above your own in certain situations. So is there anything that you do to make sure that you're also taking care of yourself?
I'm unfortunately a people pleaser. So sometimes I do think of myself, and I try to deal with that in my own way, I guess, of taking care of myself and making sure that I'm okay mentally. But sometimes you just can't do that because you just have to keep going.
Yeah.
So
I know. I can understand how hard that is. But I think that also the OCD kind of ties into what we just talked about, because that's something that people often use as catchphrase almost, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm so OCD. I'm so OCD. It just doesn't sit right with me, because I know people who have pretty significant OCD, you know, having to touch the doorknob a certain amount of times before they can leave the house, having to turn the lights on and off a certain amount of times before they can leave the house.
Yeah.
Some centered on germs. So it doesn't always center on germs though, and I don't think a lot of people recognize that.
Yeah.
And sometimes people with OCD can quite literally live in slob territory, right? Yeah. It does not just associated with cleanliness.
Right.
So I think that's the hardest thing to get across to people, or, you know, have them understand that sometimes it's really just about battling those intrusive and compulsive thoughts.
Yeah.
Do you want to share anything about maybe what your husband goes through, or what his triggers might be, how he gets past those?
Yeah, he has he talks with somebody and they help him through it.
Good
sometimes.
for him.
Therapy is important.
Yes. Everyone should go to therapy.
Yes. But yeah, he tries to deal with it as best he can. He sometimes will ask if something is supposed to be this way, or so he doesn't have to do it a certain amount of times, I guess.
Kind of like grounding himself almost?
Yeah.
Like getting a
technique, I guess.
A gist of what is conventionally normal, or is that how I'm understanding it, or am I understanding it incorrectly?
No, you're
okay.
You've got it right on the nose. It is a type of grounding technique, and I will say with having a gluten allergy, I know it's not the same as having OCD, but
cross-contamination.
Yes, I have quite a large fear about that.
Yeah.
And coming in contact with things that I cannot consume.
Yeah.
And they make me really sick. That's a valid
point. Yeah. Frozen yogurt. Out of the question.
I wish. I haven't had frozen yogurt in a long time.
Yeah. Toppings. Cross-contaminated.
Yes. But I can kind of relate to him in that way with having that fear and not really, I don't know if it's not really, I guess it's anxiety related.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I can relate to him in that way and understand and try to help him through whatever anxiety and whatever compulsion or whatever his brain is telling him is not right.
Sometimes your brain is your worst enemy.
It really is.
I do not have OCD, but I do struggle with anxiety pretty frequently. Kind of similar to that. Not the same. I'm not comparing the situation, but I recently went through a very terrible friend breakup, and it was one of the worst things that's ever happened to me. Yeah. And I'm so afraid of that, you know, happening again. So I get that, like having to see if you can trust your brain in that moment. Is this thought valid? Is this thought process valid? So
your feelings are valid.
Yes. Your feelings are always valid, but sometimes I have to keep my brain in check. Like, Miss Girl, like, let us know.